Sammie Spears, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you. Great to be here, DJ.
Yes, this is going to be cool. For everybody who's tuning in, Sammie and I were just talking, and I said we got to start recording before we miss
Yeah,
this gold.
good stuff.
So, so Sammie, you're a member of you're a head coach, CrossFit West Chase.
That's right.
Okay.
CrossFit West Chase Largo. So we had those two locations. I'm down in Largo.
Okay, cool. So I just moved here from New York too in
All right.
August. So I'm still getting
Okay.
used to all of the geographies and everything.
Yeah.
Um, you've been there for 13 years?
Well, actually, I've been coaching CrossFit altogether for
Okay.
about close to 13 years.
Okay.
I left the military back in 2015. Came down here and I was head coach over at CrossFit Manor.
Uh-huh.
And then I came over to West Chase in 2018.
Okay, gotcha. Well, first off, thank you for your service.
Of course. It's good.
Appreciate
It's
that.
fun most of the time.
Yeah. So when we asked you about mental fitness, you correlated it to kind of like your overall health, right? And it's almost like a
Absolutely.
multifaceted approach where it's your mind and your body. And I think that's a really important thing for people to realize. Like
Right.
when we talk about health, I don't know about you, but like first thing I'm like, all right, my body, right? My body's strong. And I think we forget
Yeah.
that it kind of feeds down from our
Yeah.
thinking into our body.
100%.
Yeah. So I like that response. And I think and then the other thing you said was that the mind can help guide our body through challenge.
100%. I
Mm,
mean, I kind of feel like, there's a few people that I kind of focus a lot of my mental fitness
mm.
through, channel it through. First one that comes to mind is David Goggins. We've
Oh
heard a
yeah.
lot about David Goggins and how much of a mental, juggernaut that guy is.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember getting into his ideas years ago. I mean, when he was, he wasn't the David Goggins that we know through social
Mhm.
media and everything today. It was just, hey, there's this guy that's doing this. At the time, I was into endurance racing as well,
Mhm.
running marathons, stuff like that. I actually got into marathons after I was doing some combat fighting, Muay
Yeah.
Thai, stuff like that. And I had a little heart surgery and I didn't get like kicked in the chest anymore. So
Mhm.
something a little bit less impactful was the endurance training.
Mhm.
And he was just one of those in that time frame that was like, this guy's out there. He's doing crazy things, military guy too. And listening to him speak, and I'm like, man, he's really saying that
Mhm.
your mind is operating at a higher capacity than your body can understand. And I was
Yeah.
like, it's interesting. I want to find what he's talking about.
Mhm.
So with that idea, I started to correlate, you know what, if I tell my body I can do this, if I repeat it, it can do it. And if
Mhm.
I tell my body not to do it, it's not going to do it. So I got to find a balance in a way to get my body and my mind to understand how to correlate and to work together, for our overall fitness in
Mhm.
general.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started for me.
Yeah. That's a very it's an interesting connection between like the decisions that our body makes versus the
Yeah,
decisions that our mind makes.
right.
Like I think about like in a daily basis, how many physical decisions do I make?
True.
Right. Versus how
Yeah,
many mental decisions do I make?
right.
And I think our body probably doesn't, well, our body probably doesn't carry out all of the mental decisions that we make. Maybe these are just thoughts that kind of
Right.
float around in our head, right?
Right.
So I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think about it like, I have different levels of people I train or people I work with.
Mhm.
And I tell them to consciously do things. So for instance, if you're picking something up off the ground, I want you to consciously be aware of how your back feels and your positioning as you do it. That's my mind telling my body to do it. Otherwise, your body and your mind just kind of mix things around and you'll do it in a crazy form or fashion.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we just make that connection with the simplest things we do, we drive in that mind and body connection, if that makes sense. So for years, my mother is Vietnamese, and so she used to be able to just pop into the squat. You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about? I'm sure, and lots of Asian people do it. In my culture, they just sit down and they're in that position. I'm like, I can't get people to do that but it's natural.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, I've got to correlate that to the proper mechanics of sitting. So if I show people that you can get down at 75, 80 years old, but if you consciously think about it, it becomes your natural way of behaving. And then when you get into those movement patterns, like this hurts a little bit, but I'm doing it. All right. Next time I get down into squat, I'm gonna move through this. This part's gonna be a little bit sore, but it's gonna get better. And we
Yeah.
can convince our body through our actions and through our body telling our minds telling our body it's going to be okay. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's almost like we create evidence too.
That's it. That's a really good point for me. Yeah, we just show ourselves that we can do these things, and I think that's one of the, bringing me into the fitness world. just taking a step back. I was in the military. I got in the military and earned a graduate degree. They got all this stuff too. It was an MBA. So I was like, I'm gonna get behind a desk. I'm gonna make all kinds of money. It's gonna be a great life. But then I realized that that's not what's gonna make me happy. We talked about paths earlier. I was like, that's not my path.
Yeah.
My path was just watching people grow. And that filled my heart, filled my cup. Just watching somebody fix something in their life and then watching that spread to the rest of their life. I'm like, I really want to help people do that. And so if we're able to do that through these simple things in the gym,
Mhm.
I think that spreads to the rest of their life. They challenge themselves more throughout the rest of their life because they are able to do it in the gym or physically. When you're in a meeting in a business room full of high-powered people, uh, if everybody left that room, you'd be left with your own devices. You'd be left with you. And how are you able to control your body? How are you able to control yourself without these all these powerful people around you and these influencers or whatever? If you go all the way back down to that raw thought, mental and physical raw thought, you can exploit that and
Yeah.
do so much more.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm sorry, I just jumped off on a tangent there as
No,
well, just thinking about that.
I love that. It reminds me of, it's almost like a human compound effect,
Yeah,
right? Where if I
right.
can have a positive effect on this person, whether it's in their physical fitness or mental fitness, imagine what that can do for their life.
100%. Yeah.
And imagine then how that could benefit others in their
hmm
lives.
That's right on point. So,
Right.
like some of the folks I train, and when I talk to folks, I'm like, hey, look, there's two ways I like to train people, and I don't train the athletes as much anymore only because I appreciate what they do. I just don't have that passion as much. I train people for life, and that's kind of what I tell them. I'm like,
Mm,
we're training for life. We're not doing this training. I'm not busting your butt in the gym so that you can look better on the leaderboard. I'm doing this so that in 10 years you can pick up your grandkid and outrun him. So you can still, in 40 years, chase your kids around the yard or whatever. My son, he's a bit bigger than me. All right. Okay, he's a lot bigger than me. He played college football too. He was a lineman. Um, and so I always felt that if I can train him and just, keep up with him and make him think that I can outwork him, that's life I want to live. That's what's going to keep me happy. He's older. He, stopped playing college football and all that stuff. But just to have him look at me and be like, man, my dad can do this. You
mm.
know, I had a hashtag I was using and it was fittest dad in the carpool lane. And so that's kind of how I want. Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
kind of how I wanted. Yeah, I wanted to train people that way to feel that you can still be this in this lifestyle, but what we're doing is creating that mental fitness and physical fitness that's going to carry out throughout your life.
Yeah.
You are going to be the fittest in the carpool lane, and you are going to do these things, and that's going to spill over into your business life and your personal life and everywhere else.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. It really sounds like the gym, at least like from like what I'm hearing, the way you kind of look at the gym is it's a gym for life,
it is
right?
100%.
It's
I like
not
that.
just I'm gonna go
Yeah,
in there and launch some weight above my head, right? I'm gonna be sore after 24.1 and 24.2
right.
and all these.
Yeah,
It's no, I'm gonna do hard things in here so then I can do hard things out there.
that's actually the phrase I use. We're going to do hard stuff in the gym to make everything out there easier.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's, and most of my athletes, I would say, or clients, they would be your standard weekend warriors.
Yeah.
Or I would say, don't want to use the term to make anybody, but soccer moms or, dad bod guys, but they'll come in and be like, hey, man, you know what I did this weekend? And I'm hoping it's something that doesn't have anything to do with the gym.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that it's something they did physically out somewhere that, oh, we hiked 12 miles and I felt great. And that's kind of, they're carrying it with them, and I was trying to drag my son along and he wasn't able to do it, but I did it. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we do this stuff in the gym. 45 minutes to an hour here is so those other 23 hours are spectacular, and
Yeah.
you're influencing the people around you because of what we've done. We've connected something in there mentally and physically, and you're able to spread it. That's it's amazing.
I love that. And that's so I'm glad you mentioned the CrossFit saying, right? That hour, the best hour of your day.
Yeah.
So I so I was originally from New York, just moved to Florida, and when I just gotten introduced to CrossFit, the gym that I worked out with in New York, Brickyard CrossFit, they had these little
Mhm.
stickers and it said the best hour of your day. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a great saying. Like best hour of your
Right.
day. Like that's so cool. I did not make the connection that that was a universal
Yeah.
CrossFit saying. And so when I came down here to Florida, with the gym that I work out at, CrossFit Thumbs Up here in Tampa, I was like, somebody said, yeah, CrossFit, right? It's the best hour of your day. I'm like, no way, you guys got the same saying as
Yeah,
as my gym back in New York.
right.
And they're like, no, like that's a universal saying. And
Yeah,
for some reason, I went to the contrast of that and I said, well, what about the other 23?
right.
Right? Like, am I escaping the that 23 hours that I don't like, or I'm not healthy enough, whether it's mentally healthy enough or
Right.
physically healthy enough to live the life that I want to, and I need to go to the gym to like escape that.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts about that?
Well, and of course we hear that a lot. Like, I come here to get away from the rest of the world. And I
Yeah.
hear that, especially with my afternoon class, or like they just got off work, afternoon classes, 3, 4, and 5. They just get off work, or, they just had a rough day and they're like, you know what, I'm here to escape. Just tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. I'm like, all right, but I'm trying to give you value. I want to bring you some value in your life. This might be, my fifth class I'm coaching of the day, but this is your 1 hour with me. And so my role, what gives me passion, and fills my cup, is to give you something to leave here with.
Mm,
So let's work together. So I try to start off every class that way. It's like, hey, I'm here for you guys. Let's do something. And hopefully by the end of that hour, it's not uh, it's not something that they just want to hold there. They want to share it.
yeah.
They talked about CrossFit culture being like a cult. We're in the CrossFit cult. We're doing this stuff, but it's true. You can't shut us up because we want it to be the best hour of your day, and we
Mhm.
want that to spill over. If today in class you deadlifted a certain amount, you normally don't do that, and you're like, wow, I've never knew I could do that. Those endorphins are going to carry you.
Yeah.
So when you go to the store, you might say hi to somebody you didn't say before because it's up, and you just spread it to a total stranger.
Mhm.
Or you get home, you're like, hey, kids, hey, instead of just sitting in front of the TV tonight, we're going to go do this because I did this today.
Mhm.
But we don't get that as much as adults. Kids get pats on the back all the time at school, but when we have a great day at work, oftentimes it just stays at work. So
Yeah.
when you come to the gym, I want to say that that relates. Oh, you had a great day at work. Let's continue that for this next hour. And you
Mhm.
had a great day at the gym. Continue to the rest of your life outside here. So
Yeah.
let's keep it going.
Yeah.
I
And
think
there's
that's what builds that mental fitness as well.
yeah, it definitely does. I mean, it is something where it's like that feeling of like when you do a workout and you're walking around your house the next day and you're sore,
Yeah.
and it's like this good sore where
Right.
you're like, "Ooh, like that was a great improvement of my strength."
Right.
Right? And it's this good feeling where like we appreciate the hard things that we deliberately go through,
Absolutely. Hmm.
right? I
And I
think it
think
makes
that's,
us value that.
yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the things that I try to walk that fine line of, because I don't want anybody to get hurt,
Yeah.
but I want them to get that 2 day sore where they're like, you know what, we squatted on Tuesday. I'm feeling it today, and I didn't get to my 100%, but I was around 90, and I had a great workout. And
Mhm.
that thought 2 days later, it's still with them, you
Yeah.
know. And I think also being reminded of that, we're talking about the connection between the mental and physical fitness, is that 2 days later they're reminded of what they just did, and they think about how far they've come. I always remind people of that too. There's a girl yesterday that came in and she showed me she had some bruising on her hands from all this toaster bar that we were doing. And I'm like, that's great. I've never seen bruising there before. And she's like, well, I think it was because I was squeezing so hard and I was just so excited about how I was doing. I'm like, I'm excited that you did that.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a closer look at your wrist, but that carried over. And she had a
Mhm.
smile on her face that I really didn't see from her. But these successes, you know,
Yeah.
in what they're doing is what carries over. And she's a single mom, comes in struggling with her two little boys, but that win,
Mhm.
it's like that's kind of what is really going to help her take care of some of these other things,
Yeah.
in her life.
Yeah. It's that human to human connection.
Yeah,
That's just so valuable, and I can I can relate to when I kind of realized, hey, I want to work more with people and I want to help. It's kind of similar to the way that you're kind of talking through this, where it's like I
yeah,
like seeing them make progress.
right,
Like that's a
right.
really good feeling, right? Because I think it does spill over, as we've mentioned, right, into every other area of our lives. But I think it also makes me want to be better,
Yes, it does. You
right?
know, I truly feel that way. I think that again, I'm not into the competing aspect of it as much anymore. But I mean, don't I like to get down. Don't get me wrong. I like to get down and beat up on these younger guys, and let them know that I'm still hanging around here. But when I see either my clients, my athletes, or even my teammates and my friends get after it and they do something great, I do get filled up with it a little
Yeah.
bit. I'm like, yeah, this feels good to be in this environment.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, I kind of feel that it helps me grow mentally as well, to
Mhm.
see the progress around me, and knowing that I can still do it too. Or I wonder how many other people are seeing this growth and taking parts of it away as well. It's just a synergistic environment, and people don't sometimes, they talk about the global gyms like Crunch, Planet Fitness. We're just
Mhm.
going there lifting weights with your big headphones on and your gallon of water. That's great. I can look across and see some guys' biceps getting big, but I don't feel the energy.
Yeah.
I don't feel the energy. I'm not sharing the energy. In
Mhm.
our, functional fitness, in our group fitness atmosphere, we're feeling that energy.
Mhm.
Whether it's a missed lift, like I'm jumping around when they're missing the lift, I'm like, oh, we missed it. I can see the class doing the same thing because we're all sharing that energy. And that's part of the mental growth and the connection, because it provides them the opportunity to think that, this is one of our elite athletes and they missed the lift. I can try to miss too. They're fine. I can do it too. I
Mhm.
can miss. I'm going to be fine. And it's just that atmosphere that kind of helps us grow. I feel.
Yeah. That reminds me of the power of vulnerability too,
Oh yeah,
right? Where,
yeah,
right, seeing somebody not get a lift and watching the way that they respond to
yeah.
the quote unquote failure,
Right.
right? And I think that allows me to be like, all right, like when people say like failure is not an option, it's like, no, it's always technically an
Yeah,
option, right?
it's always there. Yeah,
It's always technically there. It's the
yeah.
fact of, do I want to label it as a failure?
Right,
Or do I want to label it as, no, I just didn't successfully do the thing that I wanted to do and get the result
right,
I wanted to get. And that is the process of literally learning,
right.
right?
100%. I believe that. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause I think about it like, and some people they had that same idea about 24.1. Well,
Mhm.
I didn't do so well. I've learned some things and I went back.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember Friday night, there was a guy next to me, one of my athletes, I won't say his name, but he went out way too hot.
Yeah.
And I was judging another guy. I was like, oh, I was looking at his time splits. I was like, oh, that's too hot. Even the guy judging him is one of our head coaches and owners too. He was like, too hot, too hot, too hot. And so he he blew up and he was there
Uh-huh.
holding his hands about 10 minutes in. I thought he was
Uh-huh.
going to quit, but he finished it. And then so he was like, yeah, at the end of it, when he caught his breath and he regained his life back together, he's like, yeah, I went out too hot. He
Mhm.
learned, repeated it on Monday and cut 3 minutes off.
Wow.
That's
That's
yeah, that's not
awesome.
common.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because he
that is awesome.
on that workout, especially for us average guys,
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, I learned. I was like, when you guys are talking to me, I need to listen. Because we were saying, you're going out too hot. He's like, I'm good. Everything feels great. Hit the 15s. Doesn't feel good anymore. I,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to me. And so he learned. And so you're
Mhm.
right. Failing from his plan, he learned.
Mhm.
And I think that people often take their failures as a true deficit to what they can perform at, or what level they can perform at. It's not a deficit. I think it was Kobe Bryant that said that, I never fail, I learn, or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to accept that because I failed lots of things in my life, and the long road that I've been through, I've held those failures against me. And so once I've learned that, you know what did I learn from those failures? And it took years for me to actually go back and look at those failures and be like, well, you didn't do well, and you kind of were, you were a little jerk for a little while there, but you learned, you didn't do it again.
Mhm.
So that failure actually helped you grow.
Yeah.
I Turning your mind that way, it's very hard to do because one, we are, we all want to succeed, but
Mhm.
once we learn that those failures into turning them into something great, it's just a part of growth. It's just part
Yeah.
of what we have to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, I'm so happy you actually brought that up because I'm actually giving a talk this weekend on almost exactly what you just said right there. Like
Yeah.
it's the idea behind it is basically we experience a challenge in our lives. We then change our behavior to handle that challenge in any way that
Mhm.
we are aware of. We
Right.
then continue the behavior long after we experience the hard thing, the challenge, the failure. And I now say that that failure, that hard thing or that challenge is actually what created the positive behavior,
Yes. Hmm.
right? It's like, so
I
like now
agree.
can we see like how we can actually change our relationship with these hard things? It's like, I actually kind of need this shit.
Yeah.
Right? I actually kind of
We need
need
them.
this. We
Hmm.
need this to actually point us in the directions of where we want to go. right, of the results that we want. And it's often like, I think I've talked about like everything we want is on the other side of fear,
Yeah,
right?
I believe that.
Right, all your possibilities are right outside of your comfort zone. And
Right.
it's completely available to live a safe, comfortable life,
Yeah,
right? We don't have
it
to
is.
go to the gym and do 24.1,
No, we
right?
don't.
Right. So
Right.
like, I mean, what do you think about the importance of intentionally? So real quick, have you ever read the book Deliberate Discomfort by Jason Van Camp?
No,
All right.
never. I did not.
It's a army book, and
Uh,
they're Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers,
right.
all. And basically the idea of the book, it's one of my favorite books, is deliberately putting yourself in uncomfortable situations,
Yeah.
right? Because you know that it's actually going to lead you to a long-term result that you
Right.
want. Even in the moment,
Hmm.
it's going to hurt, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? So, what's your perspective on deliberate discomfort?
I believe it 100%.
Yeah.
I just read the Comfort Crisis recently. Great book as well. So, like I mentioned earlier, I was into David Goggins and
Mhm.
then into the endurance racing and running and all that stuff. Um, I I do this thing called Mindset Mondays, and then one of them was to embrace discomfort. And so, it's just a quick thing I think about. I do a quick Monday morning run every Monday morning, and then whatever kind of comes to me for the week ahead, I just kind of put out there, and people
Mhm.
respond to it, talk to me, message me, or whatever. And so, um, and I think one of them was like, learn to be uncomfortable, be comfortable, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just that's how life's going to be. I kind of suffer from a little bit of anxiety. I just don't like being around a lot of people. It's funny because I'm a coach in front of dozens of people every day, but I've learned to be uncomfortable because if there's something better on top of that, I have to do it. I
Yeah.
have to be uncomfortable because I'm not going to be able to get into those people's lives that I want to get into. So I have to get over that little bit of anxiety and then just get into it. But
Mhm.
as far as being deliberately discomfort or uncomfortable, on Wednesdays I do this hashtag Weight Best Wednesday workout.
Okay.
It's usually 40 to 45 minutes long, and it just sucks.
Yeah.
It's just weight vest on, heavy stuff, dragging it, long stuff, repetitive, and that's just me deliberately going into an uncomfortable workout for 40 to 45 minutes, knowing it's going to suck, knowing it's going to hurt, and then being okay with it.
Mhm.
I've invited a few people, and they like them too, or they don't like them and they don't tell me. I don't know,
Mhm.
but we just get into the suck, and then we know that it's going to be uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I remind them that if we do this, everything else is going to be easier, you
Yeah.
know. And one of my phrases for the athletes as I'm working with them is like, "You've done harder stuff. You've been more uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Just get after it." I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I feel like it's 100% necessary to put yourself in an uncomfortable position and understand how you feel mentally, physically, and find the best solution for you to manage that feeling. you know. And I've read a lot of stuff on SEALs and Green Berets, being in that military community as well, and just tapping into that uncomfortable feeling, recognizing that you can get through it. It makes you so much stronger on the opposite side, you
Yeah.
know. And opening the door for yourself to do it is even worse. It's like I know this, like taking off a scab. I know this is gonna hurt, but oh, you know, it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable now, but you do it because you want to experience the other side.
Yeah.
I think human nature, you want to experience something harder. That's how we evolved. You know,
Yeah.
if we were all easy, I hate to say it, but we would never advance.
Yeah.
We have to do uncomfortable things in order to grow. We have to do uncomfortable things in order to learn. We didn't want to sit in class for 6, 7 hours a day to earn a degree. It's uncomfortable. It sucks. I don't want to like these people, but we do it because we know that there's a greater, a reward on the other side. So we have
Yeah.
to be comfortable in those uncomfortable things.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's funny
It's
because that's kind of where I am right now. I'm like, let's get uncomfortable. Let's do it.
Yeah,
And so,
Sammy, I'm in that like exact same season right now where
yeah,
I literally just had a conversation with my business partner, and he made let's say he's doing some uncomfortable things with his life too, as
yeah,
we're saying we're burning the boats, right?
right,
We're making some decisions where it's like I can't really turn back from this, so I
yeah,
can only go forward from this. And I remember like literally like an hour ago having this feeling, and I was just like, like, fuck yeah. Like it was like it
Yeah,
was like this very strong feeling, but I was
yeah,
kind of like scared or
yeah.
intimidated because I don't know exactly how it's going to go. And I heard something on a Ed Milet podcast. Not sure if you're
Hmm.
familiar with Ed Milet.
No,
He's a
I'm looking for
really incredible business guy, and he was interviewing Alex Hermosi,
it.
who's
Hmm.
another really smart young entrepreneur, and he said it's the uncertainty that makes it worth it.
Right.
And I loved that idea because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, it's the uncertainty that makes it worth it. It's like, well, I wouldn't watch a football game that I knew the score of what it was going to be,
True.
right?
Right.
I don't think I would go ask that girl out if I knew 100% she was going to say yes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd start the workout if I knew exactly how successful I was going to be, or that like it's
Right.
the fact that we just don't know how things are actually going to
Hmm.
go
I
that
like that.
actually keeps us in the thing,
Yeah.
right? It's like that uncertainty is actually what we need to thrive on. And I took a step back. I'm like, geez, I'm like, that makes total sense to me. It's like if I knew everything that I was ever going to do and all the results, that would
Right.
remove all of the thrill or the grind, the hard work, the all of it,
Right.
because we knew what the result was going to be. So
Right.
it's the uncertainty that actually makes this stuff worth it. So curious about
Man.
your thoughts on that idea.
No, I really love that. I think it was like a mythical creature, the Cyclops or whatever, that he could see the future, and that's why he was so miserable because he knew all
Oh,
the bad things were going to happen to him. And so that's the first thing that came to mind. And I think you're absolutely right. And so I don't know how the next minute's going to happen. I didn't know how this was going to be. And actually, before we came on, I was writing in my journal, and let me see the words. I think I put be anxious. Because it's okay to be anxious.
yeah.
It's okay to anticipate
Mhm.
because it's the uncertainty
Yeah.
that that's driving me right now. Like, I was excited about this. I'm like, all right, um, what's gonna happen? I'm like, now let me think about these feelings for a minute. Uh, is this me being scared, or is it me being wanting to be successful, as far as this podcast goes, or what is it? And all I said was in there is like, I'm used to pressure.
Yeah.
And that's what I thrive off of. I
Mhm.
don't like the overhead pressure of, maybe going back to 24.1, being the only person on the floor and everybody's watching. That kind of pressure, man. The
Mhm.
pressure of that, the mental aspect of how am I going to handle what's on the other side of this?
Mhm.
If I see a workout, I know I'm going to suffer. I know that.
Mhm.
How am I going to feel? I don't know. That's kind of where,
Mhm.
I'm like, I want to know that,
Yeah.
and once it's over, I want to know how I grew from it.
Mhm.
And it's the uncertainty part of just about anything that we do. A buddy of mine and I, he developed this brush. It's a barbell brush.
Okay.
And both retired military guys. And he's like, he sent me, he sent me the prototype, right? And the prototype was a plastic bottle with a hairbrush in it,
Okay.
and I was like, I don't know. I don't know about this, but I trust you. I'm on board. What do you want to do? I'm down. And so the uncertainty just kind of drove us for a
Yeah.
while. And it drove us and drove us and drove us. And now um, we got it patented,
Mhm.
Rogue. We sell it on Rogue. It's just like a little side gig from a couple of
Yeah.
retired military guys. But that uncertainty is kind of what drove us. Like, I don't know, let's see what happens. But if
Yeah.
we knew that if we were to make it and then a big company would buy it, I don't know if we would have had the desire or that excitement to build, you
Yeah.
know, because we know what was going to happen. It's just like if it's a windy day outside, you're not going to go out there and build a house of cards
Yeah.
because you know it's going to blow down. You
Mhm.
know, it's kind of like, but I can see a gust coming every now and then. Let's try to build it anyway and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And if it stands up, hey, that uncertainty, you're rewarded from it. Or even if it falls, you
Mhm.
took the risk, you took the chance.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we need. We need to do
Mhm.
that.
We need to do that. Yeah, and I think when you mix the uncertainty with hard things, it's kind of like this really interesting concoction where it's like, what can I actually get through?
Yeah.
Right? Where
Yeah.
you're like, if I because I think there is um I was literally talking about this today. Um I can't remember if it was Goggins who said this, but I feel like Goggins said something around these lines, and then I kind of like created this own idea in my head of what
Uh,
how I would say it. And
right.
the general idea was I imagine hell being a place where every day I'm forced to watch what I could have become.
Ooh, that's kind of scary.
Right? Like
Yeah.
and I remember like playing that in my head, and I'm like, geez, I'm like, what can I become if I actually do the things that I
Right.
think that I maybe I don't even think I can do it yet, but like, what if I did do it?
Right.
Right? What if I did have this idea, take these shots, go talk to these people, try to build this big thing?
Right.
Like, who knows what this will turn into and who knows what I will develop into,
Right.
right? Where am I? How will I become an asset to others along the way?
Right.
Right. And it's like, it's that mixture of, I don't know if this is going to work. This is
Mhm.
also really uncomfortable. I'm going to mix that together. And I wonder what I'm going to look like on the other side of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about. And credit to David Goggins if he did say that, but I
Yeah.
don't want to steal his
Yeah.
line, right, or anything like that. But Sammy, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
This has
Good
been
talk, man, for sure.
absolutely fantastic. I had all these things written down, and none of them are even as good as what we we just we just covered and
Good.
everything. So, Sammy, thank you so much for your time, man.
For
I
sure, man. I appreciate you having me.
yeah, truly appreciate it. And everybody who tuned in today, thank you so much for your time and your
Yeah.
energy. We got some,
Appreciate you.
yeah, we got some awesome content today that we covered around getting through hard things, why we like to do hard things. We need hard
Right.
things in our lives. Don't shy away
We
from
do.
them. Deliberate discomfort. Um, awesome. So, Sammy, thank you again so much for your time, man.
Yeah,
Truly
thanks for having me,
appreciate it.
DJ.
And for those of you who tuned in today, thank you. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with all your friends who need to do hard things. Share it with all the people who are sitting on the couch watching Netflix, not wanting
Right.
to do all the hard shit.
Yeah.
The hard things are important. So thank you, everybody. And we will talk to you guys soon. See ya.